Okay, good evening. I would like to share with you the wireframes that I created for the website that I plan to design for our final project. The purpose of this website is to create a site that has all of the course descriptions for my department for our weekly didactic sessions, and this site would be aimed more so at instructors that teach these sessions for us so that they can get a better sense of what is expected of them and what is expected of the students. This will also help to train some of the newer instructors. We have a group of pretty regular instructors that teach for us, and these are retired doctors, paramedics, EMTs, nurses. However, we also have a large cohort of residents that teach for us, and this is where we have the most turnover. Given that once the residents complete their residency, they usually move on, and a lot of them end up moving out of state. So this would be more so for the newer instructors. So right here, I hope you can see my screen. Right here we have the home page. Right here is going to be the banner with the U of M Medical School logo. At the very top here is going to be the About section, which will be a link to the University of Minnesota Department of Emergency Medicine main website rather. A link to the Sign Up Genius, where once a new instructor has read through all of this information, they can then sign up for any opening slots, which we use Sign Up Genius for. And then a link to a quiz, although I'll probably change the word quiz to survey and questionnaire. This is just to get a sense of who this new instructor is. Are they a nurse? Are they an EMT? Are they a retired doctor? What kind of simulation experience do they have? And that'll kind of help us determine what are the best slots where we can fit them in. On the home page here, I've divided it up into 3 sections. The top part here is will be the ECM page, which is the Essentials of Clinical Medicine. This is a 4-week emergency medicine rotation that has a weekly didactic session component to it. And this is for first and second year medical students. So different things are expected of them than versus the third and fourth year. Down here will be the EMMD 7500 page. Also a 4-week emergency medicine rotation for third and fourth year students. So a little bit more will be expected of them. And then here on the right is going to be the position descriptions. And that's the descriptions of each specific instructor role and the non-instructor role. Down here will just be a footer. I'm thinking of just, again, putting the U of M logo or the University of Minnesota Medical School logo down here. So if we go to the ECM page, the layout will look like this. So again, up here, I'm going to have the banner, the U of M logo. Starting here will be the ECM course description. At the top will be a link just to go back to the home page, a link to the 7500 page, and then a link to the positions or instructor roles page. The ECM description will just briefly describe this is what the Essentials of Clinical Medicine course is, who the students are that are taking it. And then the 4 weeks will be broken down here. So week 1 is orientation, airway, and simulation. And so content here will explain what that is and what those sessions look like. Week 2 is ultrasound, EFAST, and vascular. And again, that'll explain what those sessions will look like. Week 3 is suturing and case review. And then week 4 is more intensive simulation. Again, a footer at the bottom here, and then the link just to go back to the home page. I've also, I'm envisioning this will be a lot of text. I want to add some anchors and back to the top here, so you can easily scroll back to the top as well. Another thing that I'll add here is the study materials for the ECM didactic sessions that the students will have. And this is just so that the instructor Confederate or sim jockey can look at that and know what is expected of them. And then also some video links that I want to align next to the actual weeks themselves. So there is a video that the students need to watch before the weeks begin on patient presentation, and so I want to link that here. And then there will also be a link to the ultrasound EFAST exam and the ultrasound vascular exam, as well as a link to a video for basic suturing. And so that is the ECM page. Again, that's for first and second year medical students. Oh, and one more thing here at the top. I'm sorry, I already went through that. Again, just back to the home page, 7500 link, and then the roles and instructor, or the instructor roles page. The 7500 page, again, is going to be fairly consistent and fairly similar. We'll have the banner logo up here. Again, a link back to the, that should say ECM, but kind of back to the other pages. Again, the course description for EMMD 7500, who these students are and what this course is. And then again, the 4 weeks are broken down here by didactic session. So the first week is orientation, the second week is anatomy and bequest lab, and so that is working on dissection and basic airway techniques. Simulation for week 3, and then final day is actually their final exam, in which they also have a debriefer there, and that's typically a doctor that talks to them about their experience in the emergency room and throughout the whole session. Again, having the footer down here, back to the home page, a couple of anchors as well back to the top. There aren't as many study materials in this course, however I do want to include them. Probably will actually end up moving this down here next to the bequest lab, because the most study materials are going to be there. Bequest lab is working with donors, which is what we call them cadavers, is what you would normally hear, but we like to call them donors. And typically the study materials include what procedures are done on the donors, which include a lot of basic airway, which is why I would also include a link to basic airway techniques like intubation. And then we'll go to the final page here, which is going to be the instructor roles, instructor roles and non-instructor roles page. Keeping consistent with the theme, I'll have a banner here with the U of M Medical School logo. Again, a link to the 7500 page, a link to the ECM page, and then a link back to home. I'll have all of the study materials and folders here, and then a link to the quiz, which again is not really a quiz, but it's actually more of a questionnaire to help us better place our instructors. I'm trying to close this page here. I'll work around that. And so the roles and instructors will be broken down and grouped together. So anytime that there is a simulation, and this is true for both 7500 and ECM, you're going to have a simulation instructor. And so what I intend here is that this will break down what all of the roles are and what is required of you as if you're in that position. So the sim instructor is typically going to be a doctor or a PA, occasionally a nurse, or occasionally a paramedic, depending on the simulation. A sim jockey is typically an EMT, a nurse, a paramedic. It can be someone, I mean, I've actually been a sim jockey before, and that is essentially running the computer on the computer for the mannequin. A Confederate is a little bit actually requires a bit more skill, and that's typically a nurse, EMT, a PA. So the sim jockey, you don't necessarily have to have a medical or a clinical background, but you certainly do to be an instructor or a Confederate. Suturing and equipment tech usually go hand in hand. Equipment tech can be anybody. That's somebody who sets up and cleans up the suture equipment. Suturing is typically taught by, typically we like to get a doctor, but it can be a nurse, EMT, paramedic, or anyone with just a lot of suturing experience. And case review has to be done by a doctor. That is case presentations that the students have to do, and so that actually has to be a doctor. The bequest lab or the anatomy lab, that is typically taught by a doctor. It on occasion has been taught by very experienced and very specialized paramedics, and then the lab tech, typically we like to hire nurses or paramedics for that, because that's a little bit, you have to have a bit more clinical background to do that. Ultrasound and airway. Ultrasound, again, typically a doctor. Airway can be done either by a doctor or a paramedic. The equipment tech is essentially anybody that's just setting up and cleaning up the equipment. And then finally we have standardized patient. So this one I put at the bottom because we really only have one simulation and one scenario that requires a standardized patient, and that doesn't happen all that often. But that's essentially an actor that we pay to pretend to be a patient. So yeah, and then again we have the footer here and then the back to home. So that is my website here, or my wireframes for the website. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I look forward to seeing what you all have come up with. Thank you.